So guys, I just thought I'd do a quick YouTube video. By the time you've already seen this video, it would have already been recorded. So I just thought I would do a video on signs and experiences. You know, whether you have to receive signs and whether you have to experience, and what not to feel. And this is also going to be advice to myself as well. So let's talk about signs first. I know that on my Aphrodite page, if anyone's interested, I will link it below in the video. Like, I get asked a lot of questions, you know, about Aphrodite on my page. Like, from other Aphrodite pages, like, what signs do you need to receive from her? You know, what do you need to look out for sign wise? Well, there are things like there's animals are not common in your area. Liking certain colours, like having changes in your life, which could also be a sign from Aphrodite. You know, things that wouldn't be common, like, are quite rare. And also you can also receive signs in films and, you know, in TV shows and things. But do you generally need to receive them to have a relationship with Aphrodite? And the answer to that is no. You don't need to receive them. Yeah, it's always nice when you do receive them, you know, having something nice to say, but you don't have to receive them. It's not a have-to situation. Now, I know that with other people's experiences, it can start questioning your own, which isn't a sign of you being jealous or anything like that. When you end up start to question your own and say, well, why haven't I been receiving signs? You know, have I done something wrong? You know, what have I been? You know, and then you start to end up feeling, you know, like you're not good enough to receive them due to other people have been receiving signs and you haven't been. You know, it can leave quite of a damper, which a lot of people don't seem to understand the effect it can have on people. But what you need to remember is that when other people receive signs and you haven't, it would mean that they're not special. I mean, I haven't really received any signs from Aphrodite. You know, and those people that do receive signs, they're not special. They're not, you know, highly important people. You know, they're not chosen, they're not demigods. They, you know, they just also have a relationship with her. But they will also turn around and say, well, you don't have to receive them. Yeah, it's always nice when you do, but you don't have to. So if you haven't been receiving signs, don't worry about it. Carry on what you've been doing, because what you've been doing in your path is absolutely fantastic. So just carry on what you've been doing. You know, when you feel like you're on the path that you're supposed to be doing, You know, because I'm talking to you guys right now. I'm saying in your past that what you've been doing is fantastic. And that don't worry if you haven't been receiving signs, because you don't have to experience. Yeah, some people do, and that's fine. Some people don't. That's fine as well. But just carry on what you've been doing. Don't let it upset you, and don't let it start questioning your own path. You know, and don't let it start questioning your experiences, you know, to why you haven't been receiving signs. Don't let it bother you. Don't let it question you. And that's also a message to myself. Just remember that you don't have to receive them, and just carry on what you've been doing, because what you've been doing in your path is fantastic. So just carry on what you've been doing. Now, I know that experiences can also leave people to question their own, to why they haven't been experiencing half as much to what another person has, or to why they haven't been experiencing stuff at all. Again, when people start to question their own experiences and end up not feeling like they're not good enough, again, isn't a sign of anyone being jealous, especially when it's raising a concern. It would mean that there is a problem that they would need to sort out. But some people experience, some people don't. And those that don't experience, I mean, I don't really experience Aphrodite or even Eros. And my experiences, personally, they feel like second handouts to me. You know, and they've also made me feel like I'm not like I can't be human. You know, they've also made me feel like, you know, and these are coming from, and these experiences have been evolved around stuff that I generally have naff to do with. You know, and, you know, and it happens every time I discover these religions. So when I talk about someone that actually hasn't been experiencing, you know, what I've been experiencing, and has experienced really nice things with Aphrodite, for example, it then raised a concern for me to why I've been continuously experiencing like a pattern of things happening every time I discover these religions. So it starts to doubt myself and makes me not feel good enough because I haven't been experiencing what they've been experiencing. So it leaves a doubt. Because you also don't have to put up with experiencing what you don't want to put up with. You don't have to correspond with the experiences when you get, you know, controlling hardcore religious people that would say, well, because you've been experiencing so-and-so, you need to start working with them. No, you don't. And when other people say, oh, because you've experienced this, you know, this is your experience that you have to talk about and mention. No, you don't. You also don't need to mention any experiences if you don't feel comfortable in sharing. But as long as if you don't come across as bragging about it or acting like you're the chosen one or a demigod, because no one's chosen. You know, no one's a demigod. All deities have gone and done really is that you've just been approached. You haven't been chosen. You haven't been chosen. You're not a demigod. You're nothing special. You know, all that's happened is that you've just been approached by a deity that's wanting to work with you and start a relationship, which can happen to anybody. You know, you've just been approached. That's actually the right words to use. Approached, not chosen. Or even a demigod, because it's nothing like that. So you've just been approached, and that's it. You've just been approached. You know, yeah, you can also see deities as like a mother figure or a father figure or a brother figure. You know, especially when you don't have really good relationships, you know, with your parents, or when society's kind of hushed you out or pushed you out, so deities can end up becoming like, so we see them as a friend someone to turn to, like a comforter sort of thing. But you know, since I was in Kemetichism, you know, I had people, you know, when people were talking about signs and, you know, experiences, you know, and I ended up experiencing stuff that I didn't want to experience. You know, I ended up doubting, and I ended up, you know, pretty much, if you've seen my last video, pretty much like my video that I've just done, you know, and sometimes because I get so caught up in my emotion, sometimes I forget that, well, you don't have to experience this, you don't have to receive that. So sometimes I forget what I already know, you know, what I already know to be true. Because, you know, I mean, I'm all for people sharing their experiences, you know, but sometimes people's experiences can come across as bragging, you know, and it also can raise concerns in people when someone tends to be experiencing stuff quite a lot, and you start to doubt it and start, well, you know, like Jesus, you know, is he or she the only one that works with that deity? You know, it can get, you know, it's like, and then you end up start questioning your experience, you know, to why it feels like the experiences that you're experiencing feels like second handouts, you know, and you start kind of getting caught up in all these emotions, and you know, and people, you know, because you know, people's experiences can sometimes make you doubt your own, and through the doubt that people experience, because obviously you'll end up feeling not good enough, but that's not the going on to how you're feeling, that's not a sign of being jealous of someone else's experiences. When it leaves you questioning your own, it's a thing that you would have to remember, that you also, what they've gone and experienced, that you also don't have to experience. I mean, with me not, you know, experiencing quite a lot of stuff, you know, when I've been discovering religions, you know, it came quite a regular thing. And even then it started to get me questioning my own experiences, to why I wasn't experiencing as much as so-and-so, to why I wasn't experiencing anything at all, to why this was happening, to why that was happening. And it was starting to make me doubt myself, that I wasn't good enough to be experiencing what they were experiencing. You know, doubts are a thing that happen in paganism. And I don't think people are actually aware of that it can actually cause an upset around people. And also when, you know, other people's experiences can come across like the bragging, that this has happened, that has happened, you know, so it can leave you doubting, you know, obviously, because when people do tend to experience stuff, obviously they get excited and want to share, which is fair enough. But when it's, you know, when other people's experiences are making you feel like you're not good enough because you haven't been experiencing what they've been experiencing, or you haven't been experiencing as much to what they have, what you need to understand is that, and this is also a message to myself, is that you also don't have to. But it doesn't mean to say that the deities are going to love you any less just because you haven't been experiencing what they've been experiencing. What may seem a constant thing to people, that constant thing you don't have to experience. I mean, yeah, it is always nice when you do. I mean, I am known to experience things. I experienced quite a lot of stuff for 2 years, back in 2012 and 13, but it wasn't an everyday thing. You know, especially where, you know, where spirit and stuff are concerned. And I was really close to two Victorians and two more spirit from this time. And you know, so, but even then, you know, when people say that, oh, spirit haven't been showing themselves to me, well, they don't have to. You know, just because that they haven't been showing themselves doesn't mean that you're going to start being treated differently by them. You know, it's, you know, the questions that you end up asking yourself, am I not good enough? You know, because I haven't been experienced that, or because I haven't been experienced as much as what that person has. You know, when you're doubting yourself, what you need to realise that you don't have to experience anything. You also don't have to receive any signs, because those that do receive signs and those that do experience things, which may seem quite a lot and probably would raise a concern towards others, especially if they're not experiencing anything, and be like, oh, hang on a minute, you know, they seem to be experiencing this, what have I done wrong? Why aren't I experiencing stuff I've done something wrong? You know, aren't I good enough to experience stuff to what they've been experiencing? Because it's not what people experience that is the problem. It's not that raises a concern. It's how much, it's when it seems to be quite a lot that can leave people to start doubting and questioning themselves, which tends to happen a lot in paganism, especially if they've been through certain stuff like that before. Especially, well, for me, when I got tried to have been forced into, but when I was forced into Christianity, you know, and so it, you know, and I've always been doubted, you know, by people and made to feel like I'm not good enough, you know. So that's probably, you know, issues that I would need to work on, you know. But raising a concern to how much someone's been experiencing is not jealousy. You know, when it's leaving someone upset and sad, when they start to question their own, it's not jealousy. You know, it's a matter that they would need to deal with and know that, well, you don't have to experience what that person's gone and experienced. You know, I mean, when other people start noticing that as well, it's got nothing to do with jealousy. But it tends to happen a lot. I mean, when people leave religions, people can get treated like they're not welcome back. You know, it's basically the same thing. You know, people can get treated really badly when they leave religions, you know, because of the experiences to what they've experienced of not feeling good enough because someone's going to experience this. Then they start to question their own self. It tends to happen quite a lot in paganism. And it would all, and I mean, you know, but it's not a sign of being jealous when you start to question, you know, your own experiences. I mean, someone may turn around and say to you, well, it just appears, oh, you're jealous because I've been experiencing this and you haven't. No, when it's leaving someone sad and upset, it has basically fuck all to do with that person being jealous. You know, if they started to experience that sort of emotion themselves, which I really hope they don't, they won't be going around, you know, they won't be going around saying that it's based on jealousy then. You know, it's not something that anyone should be experiencing when it comes to other people's experiences, and when they start to leave, you know, when it starts to question their own experiences. You know, it's wrong. You know, it's not the issue here. But honestly, just don't worry if you haven't been experiencing anything or you haven't been receiving signs. Just don't worry. I know that it'll probably worry you and start questioning your own path to why you haven't been receiving this, to why you haven't been receiving that, to why you haven't been experiencing this, to why you've been experiencing that. You just need to remember that you are good enough and that you don't have to experience anything and you don't have to receive signs. And those that do receive signs and those that do experience, they're not the chosen ones. They're not demigods. They're not special people. They're just people who have received them. And they're just people that experience. But you're just as good as someone who does receive signs. And you're just as good as someone who does experience. You're just as good as to what they are. So, at the end of the day, just don't let it worry you, don't let it bother you that people have been receiving this and people have been experiencing that. Because through the whirlwind of emotion, where it's easy to get caught up in, just remember that you don't have to receive them, and it is okay that you don't receive signs and that you don't experience anything, because the gods still love you the same, just as much as they love someone that receives signs and that experiences. You still get loved exactly the same. You don't get loved less. You get loved exactly the same, because that's what's the important thing here. Yeah, it is nice when you receive signs. It is nice when you experience. You know, it is nice to have something to talk about. I mean, yeah. Now you'll probably start wishing that you were experiencing, that you were receiving signs. I mean, I know, I wish that I was. You know, I'd rather experience, you know, Aphrodite than what I've been experiencing. But I also know that I don't have to, but it would make a nice change from all the crap that I do experience, which is kind of a regular thing every time I discover these villages. Like, it's always a continuous pattern, which is also, again, that gets me questioning. You know, yeah, it would be nice, and it's something that I do wish, but you also don't have to either. So don't worry that you don't. Don't let it bother you. Don't get caught up in these emotions. You know, just carry on what you've been doing, because your path is fantastic, you're fantastic, and you are good enough. You know, you're spot on in everything that you do. At the end of the day, guys, you're a credit to all. You inspire a lot of people. You know, you can even become an inspiration. Well, you are an inspiration to people. You know, with your knowledge and what you know, and, you know, encourage people to stay on the path and just keep doing what you're doing. But please, please, please don't let it bother you that you haven't been receiving signs. You know, people that do, they're not chosen, they're not special, you know, they're not demigods, you know. And it's not because they're related to a British queen or, you know, king. I mean, yeah, some people can be quite obnoxious, thinking that there's some royalty and special person because they've been receiving this and receiving that, like they own like a godophone or what have you. But just ignore them. Yeah, but yeah, but just don't let it bother you, guys. Just carry on what you've been doing, because you're all great. All right, guys, I have to go, but I will see you guys in the next video. All right, guys, bye.